First, my Minister of Foreign Affairs participated in the informal meeting of the EU Foreign Affairs Ministers after an interval of 5 years. Then, we met with Madam President von der Leyen at the European Political Community Summit that was held in Budapest. Both in these meetings and in the contacts between our institutions, we have always stated the following. European Union membership remains a strategic goal for Turkey. It is clear that our membership will make significant contributions not only to our country but also to the Union. Recent developments have further reinforced Turkey's position as a key country. The primary agenda of our meetings with Madam President and her delegation was the joint steps that we can take forward to revive our relations. I conveyed to them that we expect them to put forward a new vision to further strengthen Turkey's membership perspective. I emphasized once again that our common interests should not be captive to the limited agendas of some members. We can advance our cooperation with a win-win formula and on the basis of mutual respect. In this regard, I was pleased to observe that Madam President also values close cooperation and dialogue. Distinguished members of the press, I had a telephone conversation with Madam von der Leyen in the recent days. In that conversation, we underlined the importance that Turkey and the European Union attach to the stability and security of Syria. In our consultations today, we discussed in detail the latest developments on the ground in Syria. I saw that we agreed on the preservation of Syria's sovereignty and territorial integrity and the establishment of a participatory and inclusive administration. After 61 years of tyranny, oppression and darkness, the Ba'ath regime collapsed, leaving behind a huge wreckage. We are faced with a Syria where nearly 1 million people have been killed, half of its population has been displaced, and the country has been devastated by 13 years of conflict. It is not possible for the Syrian people to bear this heavy burden alone. Syria needs to recover quickly with the strong support of its neighbors, friendly and brotherly countries, and the strong support of the European Union and international organizations. I would like to make one thing very clear here. The international community, unfortunately, did not and could not give enough support to the Syrian people while they were being massacred for 13 years. Now it is possible to make up for this. The way to do this is to support Syria's reconstruction and development efforts. With this understanding, we opened our embassy in Damascus again on Saturday after a 12-and-a-half-year break. Turkey will continue to stand by its Syrian brothers and sisters. Of course, in this process, the country should not be a hotbed of terrorism. The fight against both Daesh and PKK and their extensions was one of the main issues we discussed during our meeting. Turkey is the only country, the only NATO ally that has defeated both terrorist organizations on the ground. We will definitely not allow these organizations to flourish. There is no place for Daesh or PKK and its derivatives in the future of our region. Distinguished members of the press, as you know, during these 13 years of humanitarian crisis and conflict, we have implemented various projects with the European Union. We expect that the Union would diversify the support it provides to ease the burden of our country to facilitate voluntary returns. It is crucial that this support is provided in the medium and long term, in a comprehensive and sustainable manner, including investments in fundamental infrastructure in Syria. We are ready to work together as a country that has carried out various efforts in this field in the northern regions of Syria. During our meeting, I also conveyed to Madam President the need to put an end to Israel's atrocities in Gaza and its aggression in the region. With the arrival of winter, the humanitarian situation in Gaza has worsened. Yesterday, another heinous massacre took place, again targeting a school. Yesterday, we learned that Khalid Nebhan, who 13 months ago kissed his 3-year-old grandson Rim, whom he called the soul of my soul, and sent him to heaven, was martyred yesterday. I say, may Allah bless him and his grandson with his heaven and his glory. Almost all of the 50,000 Palestinians who perished in the Israeli attacks are children, women, and elderly people, just like Rim and his grandfather. In my meeting with Madam President, I emphasized the importance of delivering humanitarian aid to Gaza and establishing a permanent ceasefire. I emphasized the need for our European friends to put pressure on the Netanyahu government. I shared our observations and views on achieving a just and stable peace in Ukraine without delay. Distinguished members of the press, Turkey and the European Union need a stronger and more institutionalized relationship than ever before. As a candidate country, we do have this will. I believe that the European Commission will also show the necessary will under the leadership of Madam von der Leyen. I hope that at the European Council to be convened in 2 days, decisions are made that would remove all restrictions on relationships, that would revive the suspended high-level dialogues, that would meet our expectations on updating the customs union, and that would speed up the visa processes until visa liberalization is achieved. On this occasion, I hope that we will hold the Turkey-European Union summit as soon as possible and bring our relations up to the level where they should be. And I would like to thank Madam President and her delegation again for their visit. And I hope that our consultations will be fruitful, and I extend my greetings to all of you one more time.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for your warm welcome here to Ankara today. And let me start with our discussion on Syria. The collapse of the Assad regime offers new hope to the Syrian people, but it equally comes with risks. The situation on the ground remains extremely volatile, so we are closely monitoring the developments. The Syrian people deserve a peaceful transition, one that preserves their country's territorial integrity and sovereignty, one that upholds state institutions, and one that reflects the aspirations of the Syrian people in all their diversity. So it means that national unity must be respected and minorities must be protected. And this is aligned with the principles agreed by the foreign ministers meeting in Aqaba. Europe is ready to do its part to support Syria at this critical juncture. And allow me to mention some points where the European Union right away will be active. Our top diplomat returns to Damascus. We already have a European presence in Damascus through our humanitarian teams. Indeed, we have always maintained our presence in Syria to support those in need, while respecting the principle no contact, no cooperation, no funding to the Assad regime. But now we have to step up and continue our direct engagement with HTS and other factions. We will enhance our engagement in early recovery, including basic services like electricity and water and infrastructure. We have increased our humanitarian aid to more than 160 million euros for this year alone, and we have launched a humanitarian air bridge, and the first goods are expected to arrive this week. Europe is already Syria's biggest donor. Since 2011, our annual Syria conferences have mobilized over 33 billion euros, including 1.7 billion in humanitarian aid, and we must continue this support. We must continue this support with a new focus on reconstruction. This will be a step-for-step approach, and we would need to start a discussion on sanctions reliefs, but this can only happen if real progress on a peaceful transition is seen on the ground. Indeed, the fall of the Assad regime gives hope to the Syrian people, the hope of returning to their homes and rebuilding their lives. It's the most natural feeling there is. However, the lack of predictability demands utmost caution. Therefore, one thing is very clear: all returns must be voluntary, safe and dignified, and we are working with the UNHCR to make sure that the necessary conditions are met. President Erdogan, Turkey has an essential role to play in stabilizing the region. Together, we must also remain vigilant against terrorism. The risk of a Daesh resurgence, particularly in eastern Syria, is real. We cannot let this happen, and Turkey's legitimate security concerns must be addressed. At the same time, it is important to allow all Syrians, including all minorities, to be safe. President Erdogan, today we also discussed the relationship between Turkey and the European Union. Our relationship is as rich as it is complex. But one thing is clear: it is moving forward. For good reasons. One of my first travels at the beginning of my second mandate brings me here to Ankara. Our economic relationship is stronger than ever. The numbers speak for themselves. Trade between us hit a record high of 206 billion euros last year. The European Union is Turkey's largest trade and investment partner. So our intention is to strengthen this further. We launched a new high-level dialogue on trade last June, and we will now start a high-level dialogue on the economy. And we are also exploring opportunities for renewed engagement with the European Investment Bank in Turkey. I also look forward to resuming discussions on a modernized customs union. We both have a lot to gain here. However, as we discussed, progress will require stronger efforts. Specifically, we need to address a number of trade barriers. I asked my Commissioner Maroš Šefčovič to work on this immediately together with you. We also discussed the need to prevent the circumvention of our sanctions against Russia, and of course it is also important to re-establish talks with Cyprus within the UN framework. I want to acknowledge that Turkey has consistently shouldered the responsibility of hosting millions of Syrian refugees over the years, and we have stood by you in this effort. Since 2011, the European Union has provided nearly 10 billion euros to support refugees and the hosting efforts of local communities. I am very pleased to announce today that an additional €1 billion for 2024 is on its way. This will support, among others, healthcare and education of refugees in Turkey. It will continue to contribute to migration and border management, including voluntary returns to Syrian refugees. And as things evolve on the ground, we can adapt this €1 billion to the new needs that might occur in Syria. Turkey continues to be a key partner in managing migration along the Eastern Mediterranean route. It is crucial that we work together on our shared priorities and deepen our cooperation on border management, the fight against migrant smuggling, and on visas. There is a lot of work ahead of us, and I look forward to continuing our good cooperation, both in supporting a Syrian-led and a Syrian-owned political transition, and in deepening the relationship between Turkey as a candidate country and the European Union. I think together we can achieve a lot for our people, for the region and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bueno, pues pendientes de esta comparecencia entre Ursula von der Leyen, presidenta de la Comisión Europea, y el presidente turco Recep Tayyip Erdogan, hablando sobre la situación en Siria. Han puesto especial énfasis en la reconstrucción, también en los lazos que unen a Turquía y a la Unión Europea. Hablaban de elevar el nivel de comercio y también elevar las relaciones bilaterales. Muy pendientes precisamente de Turquía, de la situación en Oriente Medio, mirando también a la tensión en Ucrania.